Every relationship you enter as an adult, you enter with a set of prior expectations. You expect, at some level, certain things about how people behave when you need them, about how relationships feel, about whether closeness is safe. You did not arrive at these expectations through deliberate reasoning. You did not sit down and analyze your past experiences and derive logical conclusions about human relationships. These expectations were formed much earlier, much more implicitly, and they operate mostly beneath the level of conscious awareness. John Bowlby called them internal working models, and he considered them the mechanism by which early attachment experiences leave their mark on the entire lifespan. An internal working model, in Bowlby's framework, is a mental representation, a cognitive and emotional map, of the self, the attachment figure, and the relationship between them. It encodes information about the reliability and responsiveness of others, about one's own worthiness of care, and about the likely outcomes of seeking proximity and support. These models are built from the accumulated record of thousands of interactions with primary caregivers across the first years of life. Each interaction: was my distress responded to? Was my caregiver available when I needed them? Did seeking comfort bring relief or further distress? Contributes a data point to an emerging model of how the relational world works. Once formed, these models function as filters. They shape perception, interpretation, memory, and expectation in all subsequent relationships. A child who has developed an internal working model characterized by trust, whose experience teaches that caregivers are reliably available and that distress is met with comfort, will approach new relationships with an expectation of trustworthiness. They will interpret ambiguous social signals more charitably, will seek support when distressed rather than suppressing the need, and will feel worthy of care. A child whose early experience has produced a model characterized by anxiety or avoidance will approach new relationships with a very different set of expectations and strategies. Crucially, Bowlby emphasized that internal working models include representations of both the other and the self. These are not separable. The model of the other, as available, unavailable, frightening, or unpredictable, comes bundled with a corresponding model of the self. If others are reliably responsive, then I must be someone whose needs are worth responding to. If others are consistently unresponsive, then I must be someone whose needs are not worth responding to. The early relational experience does not just teach the child about others. It teaches the child who they are. One of the most important properties of internal working models is their tendency towards self-perpetuation. Because they operate as perceptual filters, they bias the organism towards seeking and interpreting information in ways that confirm them. A person with an anxious internal working model may be hypervigilant to signs of rejection, notice rejecting behavior in ambiguous situations, and experience even normal fluctuations in a partner's attention as threatening, and their responses to these perceived threats may actually elicit the very rejection they fear. A person with an avoidant model may systematically suppress awareness of attachment needs, maintain emotional distance, and interpret others' bids for closeness as demands, perpetuating a relational dynamic in which genuine intimacy never develops. Bowlby was also interested in intergenerational transmission of attachment patterns. Research by Mary Main and colleagues using the adult attachment interview, a structured interview that explores adults' representations of their own childhood attachment experiences, has shown that the coherence and reflective quality of a parent's narrative about their own early attachment history is one of the strongest predictors of the attachment security of their child. Parents do not simply replay their own attachment experiences. They transmit their internal working models, their expectations, their emotional scripts, their implicit theories of relationships, through the countless daily interactions of caregiving. A parent who has developed a coherent, reflectively integrated understanding of their own early experiences, even if those experiences were difficult, is more likely to provide sensitive, responsive caregiving than a parent whose internal working model remains unexamined. This does not mean internal working models are fixed. Bowlby explicitly proposed that models are open to revision in the light of new experience. Significant new relationships, a reliable, caring partner, a skilled and empathic therapist, a trusted mentor, can provide corrective relational experiences that gradually update the implicit expectations encoded in the working model. This updating is not simple or quick. Models established early are deeply encoded and defended against disconfirming evidence. But the evidence from developmental research and clinical practice is clear. Change is possible, and the mechanism of that change is new relational experience that is sufficiently sustained and consistent to revise the blueprint. Internal working models remind us that our relational lives are, in large part, the product of our relational histories, and that understanding those histories is among the most powerful things we can do for ourselves and for the people we love. Subscribe to Psychology Theories Explained to explore more of the ideas that shape the modern mind.